How many times did you try to center a div and it just didn't work? You write some CSS, you refresh the page, and the div is still not in the center. You feel like this should be easy, but somehow it never works the way you expect. This is one of the most common problems in web development, and today we are finally going to understand it properly. Not by memorizing code, but by understanding what is really happening. Most people start like this. First, you try Margin Auto. Nothing happens. Then you try Text Align Center. Still nothing. Then you search on Google, copy some code, paste it, and hope it works. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And the worst part is, you don't know why. This confusion is exactly what we are fixing in this video. Here is the most important thing you need to know. Centering is not hard. What makes it hard is not knowing what you are trying to center. Most people jump straight into code, but they never stop to think about the structure. Once you understand the structure, everything becomes clear. There are three different things people usually want to center. Sometimes you want to center text. Sometimes you want to center a div inside another div. And sometimes you want to center a div on the whole page. These are not the same problem. And the biggest mistake beginners make is trying to solve all of them with the same solution. Another very important idea here is parent and child. CSS alignment always depends on the relationship between the parent and the child. Let's start with the easiest one, horizontal centering. This is where most people first learn about Margin Auto. You have a div and you want it to sit exactly in the middle of the page, from left to right. This is actually very simple when you understand one small rule. When you use Margin Auto, you are telling the browser something very simple. You are saying, take the extra space and split it evenly on both sides. But this only works when the element has a fixed width. If the div has a width like 200 pixels, there is extra space to share. That's why the div moves to the center. Margin Auto is not magic. It's just logic. Now look at what happens when the width is 100%. There is no extra space. The div already fills the whole width of the page, so there is nothing for Margin Auto to calculate. This is why so many people think Margin Auto is broken. It's not broken, it's just being used in the wrong situation. Now let's talk about vertical centering. This is where most developers feel stuck. You have a tall container, and the content always stays at the top. You try margins, you try padding, you try random values. Sometimes it looks okay on your screen, but breaks on other screen sizes. This is where modern CSS really helps us. This is where Flexbox comes in. Flexbox is not scary, and you don't need to learn everything about it. You just need to understand one idea. Flexbox works on the parent. When you tell the parent to use Flex, you gain control over how the children are aligned. Once you understand this, Flexbox becomes very natural to use. With Flexbox, you can center something horizontally and vertically at the same time. Justify content controls one direction, align items controls the other direction. When both are set to center, the element moves perfectly to the middle. This works for cards, login forms, buttons, and almost everything in real projects. This is why Flexbox is used everywhere. Here is another very common mistake. Text Align Center only affects text. It does not move the div itself, so if your box is not moving, Text Align Center will not help. Once you separate text alignment from element alignment in your mind, CSS becomes much easier to understand. CSS Grid gives us another clean solution. With Grid, you can center content with just one line. This is perfect when you want simple, readable code. Grid is great for layouts, hero sections, and full-page designs. You don't always need Grid, but when you do, it feels very powerful. In real projects, you don't just center empty boxes. You center login forms, loading spinners, cards, and messages. Flexbox and Grid handle all of these cases very cleanly. Once you start using them, you will notice that centering stops being a problem completely. There are older methods like using Transform Translate. They still work, and you might see them in old code. But for modern projects, Flexbox and Grid are cleaner and easier to maintain. Your future self will thank you for using simple solutions. Here is the mindset I want you to remember. Don't memorize CSS. Ask simple questions instead. Who is the parent? What is the child? Do I need horizontal or vertical centering? When you think this way, the solution becomes obvious. Centering a div is not about tricks or hacks. It's about structure. Once the structure is clear, CSS becomes predictable. And when CSS is predictable, coding becomes enjoyable. If this video helped you, make sure to like it. Subscribe to Code with Lasa for simple, real-world coding explanations. And comment below what topic you want to see next. Thanks for watching. Keep learning, keep building, and I'll see you in the next video.